I'll just allow a couple of seconds for everyone to get settled. I hope you're having a great evening. If you're joining us for the first time, welcome to our Montessori Thrive parenting workshops. We host these every October and February as a free space for Montessori parents or parents that are interested in learning more about Montessori to join in, learn from experts, and ask questions because, parenting has its challenges and obstacles. Today we're joined by Vandana Caruso. She is here to talk about Montessori at home. So, if you are already a Montessori parent, you might be wondering how you can bring Montessori philosophy, principles, activities into the home. So, feel free to ask questions. We'll have time for Q&A at the end of this presentation. But if you think of anything throughout the presentation, you can use the chat and we'll get to those questions as well. The session is also being recorded, and I will be posting this recording on the same page you used to register. It'll be up by tomorrow, so if you want to reference it or you want to check back or look over the presentation again, you're more than welcome to. All right, I'll go ahead and hand it over to our speaker.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for spending your evening with me, or at least part of it. I know that it's really challenging with young children to step away. So congratulations for stepping away. And I hope it will be very beneficial for you to, basically, we're going to go through basic Montessori principles, but through the lens of a parent. And then I'm going to give some tools at the end that will be very specific ways that we can create more connection and joy in our parenting. So I'll first just start with who I am. So my name is Vandana Caruso, and I have been a Montessori educator for 2 decades now. Most of my experience was with preschool, kindergarten age in the primary classrooms. And then I transitioned into more an administrative role. And I actually have helped two schools open. One was a very authentic Montessori school, and then one most recently, micro school with Montessori influence. So from there, I have launched into my new career, which is a parent coach. So basically, I take all the elements of, not sure what's okay, you've disappeared from it. I'm taking all the elements of the Montessori approach and helping parents find them in a very intimate way that fits their family, in a very unique to their own family's values and views on life. So I'm super excited by this new career because I really love the connection of meeting each parent. And then also, it really helps me support the child who I've always loved, meaning the universal child that Maria Montessori talks about. It takes my love for that child and moves it into a way that I can support the people who are most informative for that child. So that's a little bit about me and my career. And I will be talking a little bit more about how you can connect with me if you'd like to at the end. And I'm also including a discount for my sessions. So, okay, so I'm going to share my screen. Okay, everybody can see okay? We're all good? Okay.
Good.
I'm gonna just take a minute for a sip here. Okay. So Montessori at home, parenting with insight and presence. So first, let's talk about why this is important to think about these things. And obviously, We all know that parenting is one of the most important jobs. And yet, our lives are so full that it's sometimes difficult to take the reflection time that's needed to really be most present for our children. So, I'm hoping that this time together is a little gift in that you can take time to not only receive information, which our culture is so good at doing, is so good at sending information out, but I'm hoping that the pace of this next hour or so also suits your nervous system and gives you an opportunity to reflect on what exactly you are offering your child in your own home in terms of education and looking at the whole child. Um, let's see. Go to the next one. Okay, so we're going to start with a quote from Maria Montessori, who I'm sure you all know is the founder of Montessori education. And we'll chat a little bit about her in the next slide. But first, I'm starting with this quote. This young life that we're trying to mold needs no forcing and squeezing, no correcting or fault finding to develop its intelligence and character. Nature looks after children in the same way as she sees the tadpole grows into a frog when the time is ready. I love that quote because I feel like it really encapsulates what we try to do in Montessori education. And that is, I like this concept of when we plant a sapling tree. We plant the tree, we make sure that it's protected, we make sure that it has all the nutrients in the soil, sun, and light, but the actual growth comes from the child. And it is our job to create an environment so that they will thrive. And I think this quote really encapsulates that, and that it's a natural process for the child to unfold and develop. We just have to get out of the way. So here is a little bit about Maria Montessori. If you don't know, um, there is a lot to learn about her. She was quite an incredible, remarkable woman. The key points that I find most interesting are that she was the first female doctor in Italy, and this was not an easy thing to accomplish. She writes about because of the social norms at the time, that she, when it was her turn to observe or document her needing the information she needed from the cadavers, she would often be alone in the middle of the night looking at these cadavers. Without the support of other colleagues, because they felt it was not appropriate for both men and women to be looking at the cadavers. So that I think just really shows what kind of strength she had. Um, and she was also not given um, the opportunities that many of the men had, and so she was basically her first assignment was basically to be given children who were unteachable, as they called it, and then kind of with this attitude of like, we'll see what you can do with this, and so and this is what she did. She created a whole philosophy on how to support children. So um, there's so much more to learn about her life, but those are a few points. So this is what we're going to dive into today. So the Montessori triad or Montessori triangle is this concept that there are three key components to Montessori education. There is the child, of course. there is the aware adult, and there's the prepared environment. And all three work together and are equally important. So we're going to take time with each one of these. So for the child, Maria Montessori saw the child as all of these wonderful qualities. I'm going to read them now. And as I read them, think about which qualities that you see in your own child or children. So she saw children as capable, independent, that they love to learn, unique, naturally curious. They absorb information effortlessly. They're active learners. They deserve our respect. They follow their own natural rhythm, and they're tapped into the mystery of life. So this was a different view of children. Before Maria Montessori, she wasn't the only one that had this view, but she was one of the few. It came from a place of where children weren't even really considered that important, and that they should be not heard. And really, she was really part of the movement to begin to really respect the child. She lived in a time of war, and she believed that children were our peacekeepers, that they were the ones that were going to uplift society, and that we simply needed to support them in allowing their natural, harmonious um, way of living and view of life to just come forward, and that they will change our society and bring a more peaceful world to us. So, I'd really like to invite this idea that children really can be a doorway towards becoming more present. Our lives are so busy and they are so full. And we have these little beings around us that are in the present moment most of the time, especially the littlest. And my invitation to you is to consider in those moments where you may feel frustrated, you may feel a sense of urgency to get out the door, you may feel all of the, sense of impatience. If we could stop and also take a moment to be enamored by the ant on the sidewalk, like our little one is doing. And what a gift that is for us to be able to stop and look at the leaf as it's glowing in the sunlight, just as a child was. And I really believe that that is their gift for us. And it's up to us to awaken to um, that gift and that invitation. Yeah, so really slowing down and truly seeing the world just as children do. So just a short little recap on the view in Maria Montessori's eyes of the child. Children are naturally capable, independent, and curious. And when we nurture their individuality and create a respectful, connected environment, they grow into compassionate peacemakers. Ultimately, Maria Montessori's philosophy, is more than education. It's a path to a more peaceful world, one child at a time. So now we have a moment to reflect on our own child. So I'd like to just give just a few minutes here. And those of you who are watching the recording have the opportunity, you could actually pause and really take some time to think about these. Um, I'll simply read them, I guess. So the first one is, after exploring Maria Montessori's view of the child, do you see your child in a new light? And how might these insights change your daily interactions and parenting approach? And just take a minute and ask yourself, do I see my child as Maria Montessori did? I saw all children. When we could take so much time. This could be an entire journal entry here, but just kind of getting the way that I've created this presentation actually is very Montessori in the way that we give the child just a little bit of information and then let it settle into the child and see what comes out of them, what questions arise. So I'm doing the same for you. And then number 2 is the list of attributes that I shared, that Marie Montessori, saw in children, and asking yourself if you see those in your child. That one we touched on a bit already, so we'll just take another minute. Hey, so we're going to transition from the child to the environment. The things he sees, and that's the child, the things he sees are not just remembered, they are part of his soul. Wow. I don't know how you're hearing that, but as a parent, I suddenly want to draw a lot of attention and intention to what I'm doing, what I'm saying, how I am in the world, because there's someone right next to me that's watching it all and absorbing it, and it's actually becoming who they are. That's how important the environment is. And the Montessori approach is unique in that in that the environment is actually so crucially and important. In a more traditional model, it's really the teacher and the students, and they don't really take a lot of time on the environment. So um, that's something unique that we can really draw upon. Okay, so here is an elementary student working on his math. Um, so the key elements of what Maria Montessori called the prepared environment. Um, we're going to dive into this a little bit, but not much, to be honest. And that was my choice simply because these are the things that you can Google and go crazy with. You can look at pictures of what is a physical environment suitable for a child in the Montessori view. You will can get tons of information about this aspect. So I'm just going to kind of touch upon it simply because it's so accessible. Um, most of you probably know that if you walk into a Montessori classroom, all of the materials are uh, hands-on experiences, and it's very orderly. And if the children are young, everything is low so that they can take things off the shelf easily. And all of these things are so that we can promote a sense of independence, and it creates concentration in the environment. There's also awareness that children really thrive, especially the young children, when all of their senses can be involved. So when we are bringing something to the children, we think, how can they smell it? Can they touch it? Do they want to touch it? Is it pleasing to the eye? And we think of all of those things. And so again, thinking about your own home environment. Are things accessible? Are things orderly? Do you have awareness of what kind of sensory needs your child has? Um, is your home natural and with natural materials in a peaceful space? If you have a full family with lots of animals, lots of members, is there a place that is calmer that they can retreat to? And then being aware of, as your child grows, so should its environment. Um, and do we still have the 3-year-old wooden puzzles out when we're really past that stage? Can we move those on? Um, there's a very common concept of rotating materials and toys in the home to give that sense of freshness, and then also um, just making sure that we're catching up to our children. They grow so quickly, and I think that's a really good thing for us to think about all the time, and both in the physical environment and then also do we still see our child as they were 2 years ago? Because they grow so quickly and so fast. We have to kind of catch up and kind of a reset who we see in front of us. Again, I'm not going to spend a ton of time on the environment. So just to recap that a well-prepared environment empowers children to explore, discover, and learn. And when done well, it nurtures confidence and independence in a lifelong time of learning. Here are a few reflection questions on your home environment. From a Montessori perspective, the environment serves, uh, sorry, this is blurry on my, okay. The environment serves the teacher for the child. And what lessons is your home's physical space offering to your child? I think this is a really good question. That if you could imagine that you were a fly in the wall, you've never been in this environment before, what is the environment of your home actually teaching them? I think it's a really good question to ponder. If you were an outside observer looking into your home, what kind of family values can you see are visible? Are you a family that loves to read and you have walls and walls of books? Are you a family who loves board games and there's a huge cabinet full of board games? What can you find in your environment? What are you teaching your child through your environment? So I'll just take just a moment to just kind of pause, kind of think about, you can think about each room in your home. You can think of especially the child's room or playroom. What is it teaching them? Okay. So we moved from the child, the prepared environment, and now we're going to dive into the aware adult. And to me, this is where the juice is. This is where I love supporting parents in beginning to understand their own selves better. Um, all in an effort to create a more supportive environment for their child. We give the child nourishing food so that his little body will grow, and in just the same way, we must provide him with suitable nourishment for his mental and moral growth. So we're really looking at the whole child here. Well, let's dive in. Okay, so the aware adult in the Montessori philosophy is shifting from a sense of teacher to a guide. And in some Montessori schools, maybe even you're in the one that your children are in, they may actually call teachers guides there. So The question is, how can we be less of someone who imparts wisdom into their child, which there are times for that, and that can be a wonderful experience. But can we also take a step back, and can we observe what the child is doing? And can we wait for those magical moments when they are ready for the next step and then give that to them then? Um, can we let them have a sense of independence and curiosity of their own in their own way of learning? Um, and just give them space to experience that. They may share things with us and that they're very, very excited about, and they don't necessarily line up with our adult way of thinking. And can we allow them to just have that? Can they just have it? Can you just smile and love them? Okay, we also are the preparers of the environment. So we have a lot of say in what our homes look and feel like. And if we have the child in mind in the way that we create our home, um, then it will naturally bring about a deeper sense of learning and understanding for the child, just as we touched on with the environment. So it is our job to do that. And we are the keepers of the environment. Observing without unnecessary interference. This is such a challenging one at times. Now, first, I want to say that there is one time where interference is absolutely always needed. There is no gray area, and that is if the safety of the child or someone else is involved. Then there is no observation, there is no stepping back, there is immediate response and stepping in. But if you are in a situation that is not that crucial in in sense of the child's safety, can you step back just one little bit? Can you watch them make a mistake? Can you let them struggle and then have support them in getting to the other side of the struggle? Um, when I was a teacher for the preschool, kindergarten, primary age, one practice that I would often do is I would actually sit on my hands, um, because I knew my hands would just want to get in there and help them with the material. And so I just practiced, so I would just sit on them so that I couldn't. And that's really where the magic can happen, when they begin to figure the things out themselves. Fostering independence, how this also can be such a struggle for us as parents, um, because we have such a deep bond and connection with them, and it's hard to let go and let them. Um, but we know at the same time that we want to have independent children. So finding that little fine tunement change in ourselves to how can we can allow them to have a little bit more space for independence. Supporting the whole child. So thinking about how am I supporting my child mentally, academically, socially, emotionally, physically. Thinking about your day, thinking about week, thinking about a month, a season, to really think about are they getting opportunities for gross motor? Are they getting opportunities for fine motor? Do they have social opportunities? Do they have family time? Do they have unstructured time? This is a big one. Such a wonderful, spontaneous sense of being arrives in a child and is actually there quite easily. And when we start pushing him or her into too much structure, that unsettledness comes out in lots of different ways. Um, so, looking at your daily schedule, can we somehow create time where my child can just be, especially in nature? I have a concept that I really love, which is practicing generous assumptions. This is the concept that always giving our children the benefit of the doubt. First, asking when we ask a child to do something, do are they even capable first? Like, first stepping there and thinking, are they capable to do what I'm asking of? Okay. And if they make a mistake, assuming the best, that I'm sure that they tried the best they could. And how can I help support them to be more successful the next time? So generous assumptions, always erring on the caution side of um, just in being in a place of loving heart space. And then asking ourselves, how do we model a lifelong learning in our own selves? Because our children are, like I said earlier, absorbing everything that we are doing, saying, acting. And so this goes with any value that we want our children to hold. How am I modeling it first? In the classroom, again with primary aged. I remember when I went through my teacher training, I was absolutely amazed that there was a lesson on how to move a chair from one side of the room to the other. And that is because if we do it in a different way, or whatever way that we do it, they will repeat. So let's show them the way that will bring them most success. So thinking about what you yourself are modeling and showing your child. Okay, and then the very last is finding that balance within yourself to work with these ideals that Maria Montessori gave us and making them practical in your own life and in your own way and in your own process, just like children are going through their own developmental process that's natural. Um, it's sort of like a natural evolution. We're still on it. We once were children, so we're still on our own path. So being compassionate to yourself, thinking like, oh my gosh, now I need to remodel the whole house and I need all of these things. And then need to be thinking about their sensory needs and all these things that I just mentioned. Take a moment, let overwhelm pass, and just think about a few things that I may have said so far that strikes a chord with you that you could just tweak a little bit. I'm a big fan of baby steps. Okay, so recapping the aware adult, the Montessori adult is a quiet presence, a careful observer, and a compassionate guide. Success is not measured by how much is taught, but by how independently the child can learn. And when we trust the child, we foster a love of learning that lasts a lifetime. And then a few reflection questions. How can you create a more peaceful and supportive presence in your home where you observe rather than direct or control. So I'll just give a minute there. Observing and guiding rather than controlling. In what ways can you begin to trust your child's ability to learn independently, and how you encourage their natural curiosity and love for learning in situations? How can they become more independent? And as if you, when we talked about that sapling tree, that sense of curiosity and love for learning is what we want to protect. Just thinking a minute. Okay, so we have gone through the triad of the Montessori experience, and now we are going to move into my little golden nugget for all of you. And it's a very practical way that automatically brings about connection and closeness, trust and love, all of those things that we really want in our children. It's a practice that I've learned through the nonviolent communication folks, and I've taken it, and then we're going to look at what it looks like in different ages in development. So, first, active listening. So, this part is when we slow ourselves down and we are as present as we possibly can when our child is in front of us and they're speaking to us. We try not to interrupt them. We try to wash our mind away from labels and judgments. And we try to have our mind not be comparing, comparing your daughter with your son or anything like that. It's a deep sense of presence. It's as if there's nothing else going on in your life, in the world, except for your child who's speaking in this moment. Now, can we do this all the time? Absolutely not. It would be impossible, especially some children are so talkative. That would be your full-time job. But can we do it a little more? I think so. And just as I was speaking before, it can be seen as a gift that I can put everything down, I can get at my child's level, and all I have to do is just listen. So that's the active listening component. And then when your child is finished speaking, and of course, this isn't just for children, it can be your boss, your friend, your husband. This practice is benefits all relationships in your life. So then the reflective listening part is quite simple, but often easy to forget. So we basically just repeat, summarize, or paraphrase what was just said. Um, and that sort of response changes in different age groups, as we'll talk about soon. Um, but this practice is so simple. And yet, when we do it, especially when we're on the receiving end of it, it feels so good. You feel so heard. Um, and it can stop from arguments from happening because it can just create a sense of like, you get me, okay, we're good. Um, yeah, yeah. So, um, let me just go. I have my notes here. I just want to talk a little bit about how this looks exactly in children. So for the infant, let's ask ourselves, what would that look like? The active listening and reflected listening in an infant who isn't speaking. Well, that is a complete sense of presence and holding of the child. And when they give you a facial expression, you give it back to them. It is the sense of when they cry, you respond to them. Um, it's as simple as that. Mirroring is also super important and part of this, can be seen as part of this practice. Toddler age, communication is so important in this age. The more words and capacity that they have, um, then we can bypass so many challenges. Um, and it's very simple at this age, especially as they're just starting to learn words and they're trying to make the sound of the word, and then you say it. Yes, and there's a back and forth. Yes, that's it. That's it. I think many of us might remember times when our toddler got very upset because they were trying to say something and we could not figure out what they were saying yet. Um, and then when we get it, it's such a relief for everybody. Of course, using gestures too is also important in the toddler age. They can't always tell us, so we ask things like "see me," show me, or yeah, things like that. The elementary age can be full of long, long stories that they want to tell us. Lots of description, and sometimes it's not very sequential, and it can be in our adult minds, it can feel a little confusing and chaotic. And it's really easy to just kind of either tune out or change. The situation, that's some great opportunity to just sit and enjoy and let sort of the chaos of the stories happen. Um, and then, in terms of the reflective listening, do we have to repeat the whole story that we may have gotten lost in somewhere? No. And in fact, sometimes it's simply the last couple words that they said, and they'll feel content and move on. And then as we move into adolescence, this is so key because we want those communication channels open. And the most important, I think, most important piece in this sort of communication with adolescents is to have that sense of curiosity within the adult, to want to learn more, to keep the channels open. And then this is where it takes on a little more form, like we can see in adults. Um, that you can say things like, "This is what I heard," or "It sounds like you're saying this," or just simply paraphrasing. So I'm trying to think of an example of the adolescence would be. So it sounds like the game didn't go how you expected, something like that. Okay, let's see. Here are all of our reflection questions that we went through today. Um, and I guess I want to back up just a little bit. And I would love to practice with someone, or if anyone feels inspired to practice both ends, that would be wonderful. So you could take any one of these questions or just one little nugget that you've gotten so far, um, and then either if we have two volunteers, they can summarize and reflect back what they heard. Um, or if we just have one volunteer, then I can. So, what do you think, Camila? Are there any volunteers, or are we going to be quiet? Camila, would you like to practice? If no one, okay, okay. So yeah, just take something that you are resonating with, or could be one of these questions or not, and then I will reflect back to you what I heard.
I guess the one that really stands out to me is about the outside observer looking into my home, like what they would be able to tell about me or my values. Um, I guess for me, what comes to mind is I have art in my home. That's something that I think is telling, or I tend to keep my house very orderly. Everything has its place. Um, those are generally things um, that I really think carefully about.
So it sounds like that the nugget that you've taken so far is this concept of if a stranger comes into your home, what they see, and they would notice that you love art and you keep things orderly, and that you feel like those are true values to you and they are represented in your home.
Absolutely. Yeah,
And then, do you want to just speak a second about how that felt to have it reflected back to you?
absolutely. I think it really makes you consider very carefully what messages are being sent and what you can do to influence those messages.
Mhm.
Um, I guess thinking about it more, if I, had a young child, what would I want their experience of the environment to be? What messages would I want to be conveying to that child when they enter the environment? What do I want them to feel? Um, do I want them to see art? Do I want them to feel like everything has its place and they know where everything belongs? Do they feel like they can move comfortably? Um, those are the things that come to mind.
Yes, absolutely. So important to think of all of those things. And when our lives are so full, it's very easy not to. Um, but to have such a much more enriched experience for our children, it's so key for us. All right, we have one slide left, which is about my parent coaching practice. So, my business is called Climb Your Rose Parenting, and I offer one-to-one sessions, either virtual or in person if you happen to be um, near Chicago. Um, and I also have group classes. And I was certified as a parenting coach through the Jai Institute for Parenting, and they have created a beautiful model. And essentially, we go through 12 sessions together. And in those 12 sessions, we talk about things like um, conscious communication, which is a little bit that we got into today. We talk about nervous system regulation. We talk about what's happening in our little ones' brains, and making sure that our expectations are aligned with even their capacity in their brains. Um, so many different things. And I could keep going on, but I don't want to take too much more time. So We have 12 sessions together, and it is an incredibly transformational program. Essentially, you are given videos and content to learn different things like even child development and things about your child and about parenting. And then we come together in sessions and then we make it really practical and authentic for you. And this approach is parent centric. So essentially, I am here to support you. Um, and it can just be very transformational. I feel really grateful to have found this program. Um, So you can see there at the on the side there that there my pricing is for 12 sessions. It's $695. That's a $50 off if you attend this session or webinar. Um, and so please reach out if you want support. Parenting can be really challenging, and I think we all deserve support. So we have made it to the end.
Thank you so much. I guess we have a little bit of extra time. If anyone has any questions, or is curious about something, now is the time to ask. And you can unmute yourself or you can ask in the chat and we'll read it aloud. But yeah, go ahead and ask your questions.
Hey, this is Nico. Thanks for the presentation. I've got a quick question.
Sure.
How do you take these approaches for sort of like r routines when there does need to be structure? And I came
Mhm,
late onto
mhm.
the like brushing your teeth and taking, a bath or a shower when that's the last thing they want to do. And various like bedtime or morning routines. I'd be super curious to hear about that.
Yes, of course, because we can't just allow the children to be free, right, all the time. Um, in in Montessori, we like this concept of liberty within limits. So finding that balance is like the the perfect balance of creating a sense of structure and then a little wiggle room within the structure. And this is something that I talk to parents about a lot during our sessions. Um, we could easily talk another hour on just this very subject, but I would say that the most important thing, and especially as it comes along with our topic today, is that the adult stays grounded and present. And when that is in place, then there will be a more willingness in the child. They themselves will be able to take it down a notch. Um, and how you do that is really uniquely, personally yours. Um, I like to support parents in thinking that if you know, especially something that is routine and that is happens, every day, um, to prepare yourself for it. Know that, okay, in about 10 minutes, just as we give warnings to our children, give warnings to yourself. Okay, in about 10 minutes, we're going to brush teeth. And during this activity, I want to stay as calm and present and curious and even maybe have a tiny little joy in there so that we can do this together in a way that supports our relationship. always looking for the long term. I want to do this in a way that supports our long-term relationship. Um, yeah, so you prepare yourself going into it. And then also doing reflection and brainstorming of ideas of what would motivate my child to do to be more successful about this, more independently, or what exactly. I mean, I have some ideas of what's going on during teeth brushing, but um, yeah, yeah, and then following through, So obviously, letting the child know that we brush our teeth because we don't want cavities, all those kind of things. Um, yeah, hopefully that's helpful.
Thank you so much.
Mm.
I had a question and also wanted to thank you very much for all this information and the tone that you delivered it was really helpful and soothing.
Mm.
Um, and I was thinking and challenged by the comment you made about like not intervening unless there's safety concern or
Mm.
safety at risk. Because I think that is sort of hard to tell. It can be a gray area sometimes.
Mm.
Um, and like I'm thinking specifically about playing outside, um, and how you define safety or risk taking, like that's not always a clear definition. I was wondering if you can speak to that anymore.
Yeah, great question. So I think before I answer that, I'm gonna put in the reflective listening piece there. So it sounds like you're curious about creating less grayness in what activities might be safe and what may not be safe, especially in terms of being outside in the outside area. Um, yes, wonderful question. I think. Um, I think I spoke to this because sometimes parents that are kind of drawn to a more gentle, conscious approach to parenting, then sometimes are not able to come to the other side of saying no. So in my training as a parent coach, we like to use this sense of power, parenting over, parenting under, and parenting with. So parenting over is very authoritative. There's not a lot of conversation about things, and it has its place. Right? So those are the safety keys of that's its place, right? And then parenting under tends to be, I think, the type of parent I was kind of speaking to when I brought in that safety piece is the one who's not able to say no, who has difficult time, and all of these responses are okay, and there is a reason we respond that way. And that's part of the work I love, is looking back into the way that we were parented is probably showing up in how we are parented. Anyway, so the parenting under, they have difficulty making those um, drawing the line, the boundaries. So I think it's important to think about what we want for our children in that place of freedom and where there need to be limits. And it's difficult to answer this specifically because it's such a general ask, but I strongly believe that to parent well, we all have it in us. We all know what we want to provide for our children, And we all have a compass within us that tells us that. In our culture, when we get stumped, we tend to Google. And although that can be helpful, I really help parents come back into themselves. And then if we go back into the observer place, if you observe your child doing a, risky activity and you're grounded in the moment, you will be able to feel the appropriate response. You will feel it. You will immediately run over there or yell across the playground, or you'll think, you know what? I think he's got it. I think he's got it. So much of my work, and I think is what I believe our world needs, is that trust inside of ourselves that we can figure this out and we can know this, especially when it comes in a place from safety, because it's generally a very guttural experience, right? You're like, ooh, no, right? Yeah, so my advice would be to become more curious about your body's reaction when you're watching him or her, I don't know. And having a sense of trust in your child as well. Watching if they're climbing something and watching their footing. Is their footing stable? Is it not? So again, in that observer place. Hopefully that's helpful.
Yeah, very helpful. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much, everyone, for joining. Everyone, you're getting a lot of thank yous here in the chat. Really appreciate your wisdom, and I think a lot of things to think about. Hopefully, a lot of reflection to take place after this call as well. I'll be posting this recording on that page that you used to register tomorrow. So if you want to review it, or maybe you missed the first half or you joined late, you can watch the full video there. I'll also be sharing it with Vandana as well. So all right, I guess we'll go ahead and wrap up. Next week, we're going to talk about the power of play. There's a very famous quote by Maria Montessori where she said, "Play is the work of the child." So we'll be expanding on that a little bit more. So if you're curious about, how you can be more present in a playful way with your child, and then please join us next week. It'll be at the same time. We're going to be joined by Michelle Tovar. All right, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vandana.
Thank you.
Bye.